So, like I've said many times already, the Razer Opus are a pair of very well built $200 ANC headphones that definitely try to punch above their weight class. And I actually think that it's easier to compare these ANC headphones to other mid-tier ANC headphones like the Sony XB900N and the Surface Headphones 2, rather to other $200 ANC headphones. So let's see how the Razer Opus stack up to these two mid-tier ANC headphones. So like I just mentioned, the Razer Opus retail for $200, whereas both the Sony XB900N and Surface Headphones 2 retail for $250. But since the Sony XB900Ns are a year old now, they like to go on sale for $178 on a regular basis. But if you want to pick any of these headphones up, they will be linked down below. And if you want to learn more about any of these headphones, please watch their full reviews because we're only going to be going over their main differences. Now, the first thing that I want to address about these headphones are going to be their carrying cases. Unfortunately, the Sonys only come included with a carrying pouch, which just isn't going to cut it here. Whereas both the Surface Headphones 2 and Razer Opus come included with hardshell carrying cases. But the Opus's carrying case is just better because it's significantly smaller than the Surface 2's case. Now, the Surface's case isn't unmanageable, but smaller carrying cases are better. So, the Razer Opus do take the first win here. Now, when it comes to build quality, all of these headphones have decent build quality, and none of them have any underlying issues to point out. They're all using dense, sturdy plastics, they all have zero cracking and squeaking whenever you handle them, and they all have decent feeling leatherette. Ultimately, when it comes to build quality, I feel it's a tie between these three headphones. But when it comes to fit, these headphones do fit a little differently from one another. Now, ultimately, I feel the Sony XB900Ns are the best fitting headphones here. They don't have a lot of clamping force, so they're big head approved, and their ear pads are fairly spacious, so they should be able to accommodate most ear types. Now, the Razer Opus also have very little clamping force, and you can wear these headphones for hours on end without any issues, just like how you can with the Sonys. But their ear pads are just slightly more cramped than the ear pads on the Sonys. Now, the Opus fit me just fine, but if you have larger ears or ears that stick out a lot, then you might want to go with the Sonys. And even if you don't have larger ears, it is still nice to have that extra bit of room in Sonys. And then there are the Surface 2s. Now, the Surface 2s do have the most spacious ear pads here, but these headphones do have a little more clamping force to them, so they do have a slightly firmer fit to them. Now, I still feel comfortable saying that these headphones are big head approved because they don't feel like they're squeezing your head. But I do feel these headphones are the least comfortable headphones here because of their very minimal padding underneath their headband. These headphones have way less padding underneath their headband than these other two headphones do. So these headphones do like to create a hot spot on the top of your head. Personally, I can only go for around 40 minutes to an hour with these headphones on before I have to take them off and take a break. Now, this might not be the case for everyone, but I did want to point it out. So overall, both the Sonys and Opus fit great, but I do feel the Sonys are a little more comfortable because of their slightly more spacious ear pads. And then there are the Surface 2s, which might not fit everyone perfectly. But now let's talk about tech specs. Now, all of three of these headphones charge via a USB-C port, as they should. But just keep in mind, all of these USB-C ports are strictly used for charging. You can't use any of these USB-C ports as a wired connection, like you can with some other ANC headphones out there, like with, let's say, the Sennheiser Momentum 3s. Now, when it comes to battery life, unfortunately, the Surface 2s are trailing behind a little bit, because these headphones have an advertised battery life of 20 hours. But if you were to use them with aptX turned on, then we're looking at a battery life of around 18 hours. Whereas the Razer Opus have an advertised battery life of 25 hours with their ANC turned on, which is average for a pair of headphones in 2020. But then there are the Sonys, which have an advertised battery life of 30 hours with their ANC turned on, which is a little above average. And also keep in mind, you can always extend the battery life on both of these headphones if you use them with their ANC turned off. Now, when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, all of these headphones have stable connections, as they should. But the Surface 2s are the only headphones here that can be simultaneously connected to two devices at the same time, so that you can easily hot swap from one device to another. Now, ultimately, it isn't a huge deal that neither the Sonys or Razer Opus can do this, but it is nice to be able to, and this is something that some power users are definitely going to want to take note of. And when it comes to watching movies or videos on your phone, all of these headphones have zero latency across the board, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device, which is great. Or if you want to, you can always just use a wired connection with any of these headphones, because all of these headphones still have an easy to reach 3.5mm audio jack. Now, I know this does sound basic, but I still do want to point it out because some companies are starting to remove the audio jack on some of their headphones, either because they're really trying to push forward this all wireless future like Apple did with the Beats Solo Pro, or they do it as a cost-saving measure. So, up until now, the Razer Opus have done a really good job of keeping up with these slightly more expensive headphones. The Opus have the best carrying case here, their build quality is on par with these other two headphones, the Opus fit great, and the Opus have better battery life than the Surface headphones too. But when it comes to their sound, even though the Opus sound decent and they do get the job done, I don't think that they're going to please everyone. Specifically, the bass on the Opus lack any physicality to it. The bass on these headphones isn't going to rattle your head, and the bass on these headphones doesn't really resonate. So a lot of people are going to feel that the Opus sound very flat. Now, even though the Opus do have an app and 5 different EQ modes to choose from, you can't make your own EQ. And even though the Opus have a bass enhanced EQ, this EQ just makes these headphones sound very shallow. And I also can't say that the Opus are a pair of great sounding neutral headphones, because the soundstage and instrument separation on these headphones is average at best. But personally, I feel these headphones sound best in their stock THX EQ. And in their stock THX EQ, these headphones have very strong mids, so vocals are very prominent, but they are a little bit on the bright side, so highs can get a little ear piercing on a rare occasion. But then, there are the Surface headphones too. With their stock EQ, they should be able to please most people. Again, these headphones have strong mids, so vocals are very pronounced, but these headphones aren't so bright where the highs can get carried away, which is good. But more importantly, these headphones do have a decent amount of physical bass to them, so they're going to rattle your head a little bit. So listening to your music is a little more engaging, which I like. The only thing to look out for on these headphones is that their bass can bottom out on rare occasions with their stock EQ. And if you were to go into their EQ settings and raise the lows and mid-lows on these headphones too much, then their bass is going to bottom out more frequently, which is not a good thing. But personally, I do prefer to listen to music with the Surface 2s over the Opus because you're getting some physicality out of your bass. I just recommend that you use the Surface 2s with their stock EQ. But then, there are the Sonys, which I think are the best sounding headphones here, and are also the people pleasers here. From a performance standpoint, these headphones have far better instrument separation and a much wider soundstage than that of what you would find on the Razer Opus. And these headphones have better clarity than the Surface 2s. But more importantly, these headphones have a fully customizable EQ, so you can make them sound however you want. If you like a neutral EQ, you can do that, or if you like a bass-heavy EQ, you can also do that. But the key thing to keep in mind about the XB900N is that they have an extra bass feature. That's what the XB under the name stands for. And if you were to turn up the bass slider on these headphones, they're going to physically rattle your head a lot more than your standard pair of headphones. And unlike the bass on the Surface 2s, the bass on the Sony stays intact no matter what. And this extra bass feature is a lot of fun to use while you're watching movies with these headphones because it adds an extra level of immersiveness. But I will admit, the extra bass feature on these headphones can get old after a while. So if you don't want to use the extra bass feature on these headphones, you don't have to, but it's there if you want it. So sound quality wise, the Sonys are the clear winners here because they have better instrument separation and better clarity, but they also have that extra bass feature if you want it. Now, when it comes to the media controls on these headphones, they're all very different. The Razer Opus have your standard physical buttons, so there's zero hassle here. Whereas the Sonys have a touchpad. Now, this touchpad is very accurate and it's easy to use, but on rare occasions, there might be some missed inputs, but you really shouldn't fear this touchpad. But then, there are the Surface headphones too, which have a very unique setup. They have a physical dial so you can adjust your volume, and you can play, pause, and skip through your music with a single tap, double tap, or you can triple tap to go back a track on these touchpads. All of these headphones have decent media controls, but personally, my favorite ones here are the Surface headphones. But now let's talk about the active noise cancellation on these headphones. Now both the Razer Opus and Surface headphones 2 block out an above average amount of noise for entry-level and mid-tier ANC headphones, respectively. Whereas the Sony XB900Ns block out an amount of noise that you'd expect from a pair of mid-tier ANC headphones. But with the way things are going, maybe newer ANC headphones here on out are going to start blocking out more noise across the board. But so that you can see what I'm talking about, we're going to jump into an ANC test. So like you may have just seen, both the Razer Opus and Surface headphones 2 block out noticeably more noise than the Sonys. These two headphones are blocking out almost as much noise as the Sony 1000 XM3s. And the Razer Opus actually managed to block out a little more road noise than the Surface 2s. But I still maintain that the Surface 2s have better active noise cancellation than the Opus. With the Razer Opus, if you are not playing music through these headphones, or if you're watching movies with these headphones, then you are going to feel a considerable amount of cabin pressure. It's not as bad as the Bose QC35s, which do give me headaches, but you are going to feel like you gotta pop your ears. Whereas the Surface 2s have noticeably less cabin pressure. You still feel a little something, but it's not as bad as the Opus. So I still maintain that the Surface headphones 2 are a good option to consider if you're looking for near premium levels of active noise cancellation on a mid-tier budget. But then there are the XB900N. Even though these headphones don't block out too much noise, the active noise cancellation on these headphones can still be useful for like when you're on a bus, and the active noise cancellation on these headphones have very little to no cabin pressure, which is good. But now let's talk about the ambient mode on these headphones. Unfortunately, the Razer Opus don't actually have an ambient mode. But when I first got these headphones, I thought they did because they have this NC/ambient button on them. But instead, if you press and hold on this button, the headphones will mute your music and pump in all of the ambient sound around you, like this. And then, when you let go, they'll go back to normal. But you can't have the ambient mode on these headphones turned on and play music at the same time, like you can with these other two headphones. Now, even though the ambient mode on the Surface 2s does get the job done, my main critique about the ambient mode on these headphones is that it sounds very unnatural, and it also likes to pick up a lot of wind noise. So you are going to get some interference when walking outdoors. Whereas the ambient mode on the Sonys sounds much more natural, they do a much better job of rejecting wind noise when walking outdoors, and you can also adjust how much noise these headphones let in. So if you're looking for a pair of headphones to constantly commute with, then these are a good option. But finally, here's the microphone test. Now, the microphones on all of these headphones aren't amazing, but they're all usable for like a quick phone call. Now, first off, there's a microphone on the Sonys, which does sound a little muffled, which is very classic Sony. But then, there's the microphone on the Razer Opus, which does sound a little muffled, but surprisingly, these headphones do the best job here of blocking out that AC unit. Because if we were to switch over to my lapel microphone, you're going to clearly hear that AC unit. But if we switch back over to the Opus, you can still hear that AC unit, but you don't hear it nearly as much as the Sonys. And then there's the microphone on the Surface 2s. Now, my voice does sound a little better because it doesn't sound as muffled like the other two headphones, but this microphone really isn't doing much to block out that AC unit. But with all that being said, like I've said in past videos, the Razer Opus are a pair of very well built $200 ANC headphones that really try to punch above their weight class. The Opus really give the Surface Headphones 2 and Sony XB900N a run for their money when it comes to their included carrying case, build quality, and fit. And these headphones have better battery life than the Surface 2s. But when it comes to their performance, the Opus are trailing a little bit. The Razer Opus just don't sound as good, their ANC have an above average amounts of cabin pressure for headphones getting released in 2020, and they lack a proper ambient mode. But still, for $200, you are getting a lot from the Razer Opus. But still, I feel that the Surface Headphones 2 are a great option to consider if you're looking for premium ANC performance for mid-tier prices, and I still feel the Sony XB900N are one of the best mid-tier ANC headphones you can get, because they fit great, they sound good, they have that extra bass feature if you want it, and these headphones have a really good ambient mode for commuting. The only drawback about these headphones is their carrying pouch. But if you get these headphones on sale and if you get your own case, you're still winning. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. If you want to pick any other products up mentioned in this video, those will be linked in the description down below, and you can also support the channel by checking out the merch store. But other than that, I'll catch you next time.